Welcome to Exiles, a Gospel of Mark podcast. We're coming to you from Grace Church in Erie, Pennsylvania, where we're taking what we learned about ancient truths and the person of Jesus into our everyday life. You can check out whoisgrace.com/Mark for the sermon and resources that we're using for our conversation today. Thanks for joining us. We're glad to be here. My name is Danielle. I work at Grace. I could never think of anything interesting to say. I'm married, and I have a 6-year-old son.
We've fallen the same.
That's all.
Anything cool happened recently for Dax?
Yes. What are you?
I don't know. I just kind of.
Actually, he just got his yellow belt.
That's cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It is. It's cute.
How
Yeah.
many? What level is that? Like the first belt or the second belt?
So you have white, and then you have yellow with a white stripe, which is really just you're not ready for yellow yet, but we're encouraging. And then
intermediate
yellow.
stage.
Yeah,
we're
and then
yellow.
it'll go orange.
What flavor is it? Like martial arts, like jujitsu or taekwondo?
So
or
right now at his age, it's just a general martial arts, more karate than anything.
Okay.
But as he gets older, he could pick kind of which way
He
to
seems
go.
like he's got the energy for karate.
Oh,
He definitely does. Yeah.
do you find
bouncing
a lot of
around.
the things that he's learning really are carrying into the rest of his everyday?
Yes.
It's real.
Yeah, it is.
I have friends who do it with
I
their
was
kids.
noticing the other day, he was at a birthday party, and he and another kid who go to martial arts were at this birthday party. And watching all the kids stand in line, he's just standing in line, and this other kid's just standing in line. All the other kids are bounce, 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 bounce,
In and
bounce,
out,
bounce.
in and
And
out,
Dax
run,
can
run,
be
run.
like that. He can go there. But he's very much more regimented in certain
That's
situations.
their thing, though, right? It's
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They line up fast, eye contact, and
quick
then,
and- yeah.
yes, sir, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Huh.
it's cool. It's cool.
I'm gonna file that one away for later.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a
good to
lot of
know.
girls in it.
Yes.
There's a lot of girls.
I
It's
would
probably
totally.
40% girls, I'd say.
My best friend's daughter's in it, and she has been for a long time, and she loves it. And it really is such a confidence builder, too.
Yeah, it totally is.
Huge.
Yeah.
I like the
an
idea
outlet.
of my girls being able to throw a punch.
Yep.
So
And that too, yeah. They're very big on self-defense and stuff like that. Yeah. I think his first lesson was something about if someone says they don't like your shirt at school, what do you say?
punch him in the throat. What
What do you do?
Yeah,
It's
Oh, okay,
you stand still, it's a stance. You stand like an A, and you say, "I like my shirt,"
Like this?
and you turn your body and walk away. I'm like,
Whoa.
so I'm
going to use it at work.
It's cool. Anyway, and he's
Can we
only
use it here?
6, but I'm sure it gets more slam the body on the ground kind of stuff.
That'll come.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Anyway, there's an intro. That's why I don't do intros.
I loved that very much, actually.
Next.
Sarah McCosco, hello.
Hello.
I also work at Grace. I am also married. I have no children, but I have 4 dogs.
Anything interesting happened in the life of your dogs lately?
I have a foster dog named Elliot. So
That's
my
so
dogs are
lovely.
doing great, but I have a foster dog named Elliot. He was a hoarding case, cruelty. Oh, what a nug.
What does that mean?
Like a little nugget.
I don't have
Like a
dogs.
little nugget.
You just
Okay.
squeeze them up.
He's like, so cute.
I'm just trying to understand. I've never called my child a little
nugget.
nug before, so.
He's really small and he's super cute. Anyway, he has to have surgery on his leg, and that's really, and it's 8 weeks of rehab. So more than likely, he probably won't leave.
I was going to say, so
Oh,
you
wow.
are inheriting
Oh,
this.
'cause you're
Okay.
foster.
What's
We
your
are-
limit? Do you have a limit?
So 4, which I'm at already, but
Yeah.
he's the size of this.
So he's tiny.
He's tiny, so he doesn't really count, is how I look at it.
That's what you told Ben.
That's how I feel about
And
dogs.
Ben,
like
honestly,
half
is
a
just
dog.
If you can fit a dog in a purse, it's not a dog.
it's not really a dog.
It's fine.
And I have, so
Goes
he's
so
the
deep right
third
down to my heart.
little one. I have 3 little ones, so. So we're about ready to go through that. So, and I have another dog. We'll have to see though, because I am working with another home that's very interested that I love dearly. So they may end up taking him.
Okay.
We'll see what happens. No matter what, he's going to be loved and adored, but I have to rehab him. So that's
You're a
really all I
saint.
have going on with my children.
That's great.
Slash dog.
I'm Mike. I also work at Grace. I have a beautiful wife and 2 beautiful daughters, 4 and 2.
doing
And,
adjectives now.
yeah, and I get
I didn't know we were
credit.
doing adjectives.
I get credit for that.
Sorry,
Let Emily
Ben.
know. We did last weekend. We took off and went to the other side, the Canadian side of Niagara Falls, and there's this the convention center and water
yeah.
park that was
That's the better side.
very much for well.
Canadian side is way
Honestly,
better.
and they were nice and they're whatever.
Yeah, they're very
beautiful
nice.
there.
But a water park for 9 and I mean clearly, and they just wanted to float in their little jackets and they liked it and It was a whole lot of fun. Good getaway. They both got ear infections afterwards. So disgusting Canadian kids apparently just
water in the ears.
Oh, 100%. And I smelled like chlorine and I had to deal with ear infection. So it's like,
Not good.
come on now.
Was it the amount of chlorine that gave you the ear infection, or was it
That's a great question.
The
reason
lack-
for the chlorine. It was the
lack of
reason.
the
Yeah.
chlorine.
Well, I got both. So great weekend.
Sick.
And now we got amoxicillin all up in this place.
Do you finish the meds? Like, do you make sure they finish them?
Emily does.
I'm horrible.
I don't.
I don't finish my antibiotics.
It's not good.
I know. I know.
I didn't think there were actual
Steven, do you
people
finish
like that.
yours?
I don't really go to the doctor.
Take medicine. He puts his.
I grow my medicine in the garden.
I am terrible.
Guys. Okay.
Terrible.
It's the bubblegum flavor stuff. So part of me is like,
Oh, well,
should I just take a
like, I feel
hit
better.
too? Because
Yeah,
it tastes so good.
I don't want to do these pills anymore.
Whenever the doctor says that to me, I'm like, there aren't really people that
Yes.
don't finish these, are there?
Yes. Anyone watching, please write in and tell us that you do or do not take your antibiotics. I guarantee you get plenty of people that do not finish them.
There's something about
We feel
HIPAA.
better and we move on with our
And
lives.
this is why
I
we
don't
can't
take
get
this pill anymore.
antibiotics. This is why we can't get them, because we can't be trusted. So when I actually need one, I can't get one
Don't
because
worry. When I
I'm
don't
just
finish them,
kidding.
I keep them, and
done.
then when I get sick again, I dive into them.
You know what? I'll save some for
you're
you.
literally going to go to jail. For
I'll give
saying
you
that.
some bubblegum amoxicillin, okay? I'll
Where
save it for
is
you.
the FDA or whatever they are?
This is going south real fast.
All right, Steven, and tell us your favorite antibiotic.
Couldn't even answer that question.
He doesn't even know what that is.
Antibiotic.
My name's Steven, and a fun fact, because we were talking about martial arts, I
Oh.
almost made it to black belt in Taekwondo
Whoa,
Cool.
Do you think you would do it with your boys?
when I was a kid. I'm really intrigued by jiu-jitsu, but it's like the more you learn about it, it's almost like a
Your boys
religion.
got the
It's
energy
like-
hard.
for it.
It's really difficult. Like it takes you like 2 years to get
Yeah.
blue belt, which is not
Yeah.
anything. I don't know if it's anything special. I mean, if you got blue belt in jiu-jitsu, you probably kill many people. But
Nice.
but it's like they say that jiu-jitsu is like if you know jiu-jitsu, like everybody else is out of luck.
Oh.
Like it's that
Like it's powerful.
it's that crazy. But
It's like
That's cool.
superpower.
but yeah, I almost made it to black belt and Taekwondo, and the reason that I didn't was because soccer became more important in my
Oh,
life.
so when
Yeah.
did you actually stop taking it?
It was like I was like from 9 probably to around maybe earlier 8 to around 11 or 12.
Okay.
because that's when I started
So if
really
you were asked to
taking
do
serious.
a move, you probably
There's
would
some
not.
wood boards over there.
I was going to
They
say,
don't
can
break
we
boards
like?
in
Oh, we
jiu-jitsu,
do.
do they? Oh, do they? Okay.
Not in jiu-jitsu, no.
But he did
Taekwondo.
Oh, Taekwondo, sorry.
So we
Yeah.
could stick around. We'll break some boards.
Bonus episode. You'll just hear Steven breaking boards.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, fun fact.
And that's
Great.
it. Yeah,
Okay,
there you
thank
go.
you. Okay, speaking of that, today's big idea in the sermon was the fact that walking with Jesus will always include disparaging critics. Such a good one. Any thoughts on the big idea?
I sometimes worry because I worry that I'm not being criticized enough.
Oh, wow,
Oh,
Sarah.
what an angle to take.
Whoa.
So here we go.
Elaborate.
Here we go. Is it a thing? Is it a thing?
This is really good, actually.
If you are
Yeah.
not criticized a lot, is it a reflection of your relationship with Christ?
Wow.
Whoa, that's where I go. So,
Okay.
or are some of us just, I don't want to say fortunate enough to not have to deal with it a lot, or are we not dealing with it a lot because we're not actually like, what's what I would like? He isn't such a main figure of who you are, or is it just?
Maybe would be my answer. I don't think it's not helpful to apply external criteria to our relationship with Jesus.
Yes.
It's not that can't be the only criteria. Can't be external criteria.
Yeah.
However, potentially, if you're not, if you're not apprenticing and discipling after Jesus, and it's not seeping out of you, and not like you're sitting on an airplane type of thing, and you tell the person
Right.
they're
Yeah.
stuck on the plane with you, but like if it's not coming out naturally, I guess I would expect some degree of criticism with kind of a very wide, vague definition
Yes.
in
That was
some
my
way,
next-
shape,
my
or
next point.
form. But the complete absence of it, I wouldn't say that can't be the only way we measure our relationship.
I think that's a really good answer because
Yes.
I mean we live in a society that might just consider this unimportant. And I think we live in a world that is geographically distant enough from one another. When you think about Jesus' day, it was like everybody's up in everybody's business, right? Because we didn't have social media and the world wasn't larger than it really is now. So I think there's that external factor that plays into it too. I think my encouragement to anybody that might feel that way, because I think I have at times as well, and there's, that's how sort of shame-based as well, like, oh my gosh, like, here's what the Bible says, and this is not actually real, but I feel like my relationship with Jesus is real, and then you go down this whole rabbit hole, right?
Rabbit hole, yes.
But I think a good internal evaluation tool is to spend time asking, have there been moments where I knew God wanted me to do something, and I just didn't do it?
Yeah, that's good.
That's a good metric.
Potentially because I was afraid of the criticism or whatever.
Exactly. Like I could be made fun of. I could be, people at my work could look at me differently, so on and so forth. So
I think it's going to be an awkward conversation. I don't want to be in an awkward situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't feel like I have relational equity yet with these people yet, so I feel like God's telling me to have that kind of conversation or whatever.
And this isn't a cop-out, but the other thing is, I'm thinking about your spirit in particular, you might just be the type of person that God uses to be like a peaceful person.
Oh.
And it's really just your own heart to say, like, am I doing this because am I not doing this because I'm afraid, or am I not doing this because it's just not right for me to do it right now because I need to, you know what I mean? There's some discernment in there too. But I could totally see you being just a person that is a normal person for people. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not God, I don't know, but that's a good question to ask yourself, Sarah. That's great.
That's really good.
Oh, great. I thought it was just a normal thought.
No. I mean, it is. No, it's just it shows your character that you go there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
One of my favorite little sections of scriptures in here and we'll talk about this later and what it means, but it was right after the big idea, so this is what I wrote down on my notes. In verse 5, where Mark writes he could do no mighty work there except that he laid his hand on a few sick people and then he healed them.
Like it was a nonchalant thought.
I just
He's he healed somebody, blah,
yeah,
blah.
We can talk about the meaning of that, whatever, but that just always cracks me up whenever I read that. All right,
whatever.
Let's talk a little bit about responding to the criticism that comes with following Jesus. So anybody have examples of that, or we can even say tips?
I think the biggest criticism that I face is it's like you almost feel like you're being made fun of for how Jesus is such a big deal to you, and you'll get people will make I don't know if this is me. I get a lot of cracks made at me. Okay. People who aren't in the same position with Jesus as myself, but they know they'll make just jokes or a jab or there's Sarah over there, her and her Jesus, just stuff like that. You know what I mean? I've never really been in a position where someone has really tore me apart. Okay. Or really been hateful or said a lot of mean things to me. But I've had really close people in my life that know how much my relationship with Jesus means to me and how important it is, and it's who I am. And they will make deliberate jokes. And it almost feels like they're firing at me to see how I'm going to respond type of thing. But I don't know if that's really criticism. But I feel like I don't know. They don't deliberately look at me and criticize me for loving Jesus. I just get kind of flack for it.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So in the context of the verse and stuff, it lends itself to criticism from those outside the church. But having been a pastor for these 2 years, and I'm sure Stephen has felt this, I know for a fact Derek feels it. As I seek to follow Jesus and to shepherd and spur my congregation to follow Jesus, I have received criticism from those within the church, especially as challenging and holding standards and trying to lovingly, help, change behavior. And my first reaction continues to be and will always be the visceral gut reaction is to just bristle up and get defensive and be but you're wrong because of, and the Holy Spirit has slowly, painfully conditioned me to swallow that gut reaction.
Bounce off.
Try to have empathy. Like if someone's coming at you with criticism about what you're saying, what you're doing, there's an insecurity somewhere, which is another point here, that there's an insecurity beneath the surface from which that criticism towards you is being directed. And so trying to like swallow that initial reaction, it does not happen all the time effectively, but to have empathy and to see with compassion where they might be coming from and to try to be that peacemaker, to try to make that connection, it is wildly difficult.
And to try not to let your feelings get hurt because you're like,
because
what you did was amazing, and so you're trying to like keep your focus on that, like, but it's hard. You're human.
And my specific, so my mind will just like circle the drain for days afterwards. If it's from someone unexpected or something particularly harsh, and it will take me to a dark place. And I'm slowly learning how to like stop and like redirect my thought pattern so that it's away from that criticism and back towards where's my value, where's my worth. I know I'm following the Spirit as best I can in this moment. So that's when I take those face shots, that's what I try to do.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure. My initial response to that is, so if you separate them into two camps, the unbeliever, I don't feel like I've met or be met with a lot of like backlash or animosity outside of a tragedy happening. We've talked about this in previous podcasts, like a tragedy happening, that person looking at you, you step into that tragic situation, that person looking at you as a representative of God, and now they're angry at God, so they're angry at you. Yeah. And then that like I have to come up with an answer or try and defend God, and that tension that I felt. But normally, in the lead pastor role, I don't feel it now outside of the lead pastor role because people look at you a little bit differently. But man, I would just be met with silence. People would be having conversations, life is good, and then like you walk into that situation and it gets like eerily awkward and silent. People don't really know what to talk about. Can we talk about this? Can we joke around the pastor like this? And I'm just a regular dude, you know. I remember, I don't know if I've told this story in the podcast before, but I was at a birthday party for a well-known community member where we lived before. I think it was his 60th birthday party. So he was well-known, so there was lots of people. Anyway, I was having this conversation with somebody, and this person was drinking a beer. Oh, no. I don't have any issues drinking beer. I wasn't. It was a Saturday night, and if I was preaching the next day, I would never have a beer. And that's not prescriptive. That was just my prerogative.
Yeah. Say clear.
And so we're talking probably for about 15 minutes. And then, like, he looks at me, and he's like, wait. He's like, are you that pastor of the Baptist church? And I was like, yeah, you know? Yeah. And it was fascinating. Like at the next 5 minutes, the beer went from in his hand, just normal holding, to like down by his side. And he never took another sip. And the conversation changed drastically. From just like shooting a breeze with this dude. Like I knew who he was. We'd had plenty of conversations before. Yeah. But he had just never seen me in that setting. So it was just fascinating. But that's what I experienced from like the non-Christian community. Yeah. But from the Christian community as a lead pastor, that's where I experienced the most animosity, pushback. I would always call it being spiritually punched in the face. And then you have to figure out what to do. And it's sadly, it's really, really ugly. And you have to learn how to navigate those waters. It is what it is, unfortunately. But it is what it is.
Sure. And I imagine it's hard too. And I experience it to a smaller extent, obviously. But when it comes, it's difficult, especially when there's a volume of it, probably to be able to discern like when there's truth in it versus when it's attacking and that's
in the criticism.
Yeah. Because like if you're getting like 5 things from all these people and like one person is just trying to be like helpful, I think sometimes that can, for me, if I'm like under the pile of it, just constant, and someone is trying to tell me something real, I can't really hear it. Which I don't know. That's probably just me, but it's hard to discern that sometimes.
Yeah, I think our responsibility as spiritual leaders in those moments is to try and discern the motive of the heart.
Yes.
And that's what makes it so tricky. Yeah. Because it's really difficult to do, and it's sometimes not even our responsibility to do that.
Right.
But as Christian leaders, we have to respond to those situations. And so if the best interest of that person is, the betterment of God's mission, the health of the church, so on and so forth, then I think there's warrant. There's a need to listen to that feedback.
It might be packaged in an inappropriate way, but at least there's
right. But let's chew the meat and spit out the bones. But then there are, and they sound very similar in both places. But then there are those people who just have their own idea, and that's Derek kind of hits on that. These people, family members had ideas about Jesus, and I'm preparing for a sermon that's going to happen in June right now. And it's when Peter rebukes Jesus, but the same verse calls him the Christ. It's like, we have this idea of who he is, but it's our idea. It's not necessarily the right idea.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to try and discern as those motives. It's just very difficult.
I think the idea of, yes, you will receive criticism. You'll absolutely receive it from unbelievers. Boy, there's way too much friendly fire. We kind of got right on this rabbit hole here. This is what Derek talked about. There's way too much friendly fire in the American church today, and we are throwing stones at each other, intra-church, and it makes us look like fools. Paul speaks to it specifically, and I think it's just, we need to be aware of that. Far more unites us than divides us. The real things unite us, and I just think it's, this rabbit trail is a good reminder, It's be careful what we say. Let's be on the same team. Let's move in the same direction, because we're trying to affect our country, and we're trying to affect our city and our world for the kingdom, and that should take priority over absolutely everything else.
And he mentions, too, about when you get in conversations and you're being criticized. I think a lot of times we feel, you said the defensive end of things. We feel defensive, but we also feel like we have to change their mind. Like we're the one responsible for all right, this conversation's happening because I'm supposed to be here and I'm the one that's supposed to change their outlook and I've got to defend Jesus and I got to do this and that. And I appreciated when Derek brought up, there are people, how did he say it? There were people that cross your path that are there to form you. And then there's people that cross your path that you need to let them be. Like you don't need to pursue, and not everyone is for you to feel like you have to save, and we can't save them anyway. But I feel like we also put ourselves in this position where we're like, I can't ignore this conversation. I can't ignore their behavior. I'm the one that needs to help them change their mind about how they look at Jesus and faith, etc. And that's tough too to decipher. Do I continue this conversation and continue engaging with them, or do I let this be?
Yeah, I think that's good. I found that surrounding myself with, I don't even want to say a handful of people, but a couple of people that you really trust, that can be your checks and balances for you.
That's good.
Yes.
And then consistency is key. So I'm thinking through the lens of the criticism that I've received, from people within the church, so other believers. But I think this same principle also applies, for our interactions with society as well. Consistency is key. So be who God has called you to be.
Yes.
And ensure that your life aligns with the fruit of the Spirit, right? Galatians 5. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Because if the Spirit is truly in you, that is the fruit that happens. It's not like, I'm less loving, I'm less. Right. It's like if we're walking with the Spirit, that is the fruit of the Spirit. That's the natural byproduct.
Yeah.
So if we're living that out, and we're consistent in chasing that down, and we have these 2 or 3 people that can go, hey, I saw some inconsistency there.
Yeah.
That's a good metric for you. And so I always had somebody in my life who was very honest with me, and I appreciate him even to this day. One of my closest friends, one of my closest confidants in my last life. When something hard was happening, he made a point of always calling me and going, Stephen, just remember to be consistent.
That's good.
Remember to be consistent. I know who you are.
I love those
friendships. And he was always very honest about, hey, you were a little harsh in that meeting. I didn't see the consistency that I know that has been true in your life. You're a little inconsistent. And I think that's a really good metric, because
it is.
Otherwise we start to get into this defending posture. And I think what's really interesting too, sorry, I'm talking a lot today, but what's really interesting too is that I think we got to do some intentional digging and work, because we say that we're defending God and oftentimes we're not.
Oh, I agree with that 100%.
Because we're actually defending ourselves.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Like, we are mad that they're attacking. Yeah, they may be attacking our God, but we think they're actually calling us a phony and an idiot.
Yeah.
And so are we actually defending God, or are we defending ourselves? And I think that's where the inconsistency lies.
The pride, yeah.
I was hurt very, very deeply by a couple of people in my last church. They no longer ended up at the church. But one person in particular that I think of, and I remember they had made some decisions that warranted a church meeting.
Oh, no.
And they had actually called for this church. And I remember the guy, my confidant, called me up and he said, remember to be consistent. Remember who you are. Because everything in me, there was a lot of decisions that person had made that were wrong and needed to be addressed. So it was sort of like a God issue too, but there was so much in there that I was offended by.
Sure.
And he called me right up and he was like, remember to be consistent.
Yeah.
As much as you feel hurt right now as a leader, you can't bring that into that space.
Wow.
Because that's not actually helpful.
It's not.
That stuff needs to be dealt with, but that's not the same as, defending God.
Yeah,
But you're actually not defending God. You're trying to defend yourself because you're just hurt. But anyway,
It's a great example.
so complicated.
And even if you're not a Christian leader, like if you're just when you take those stray rounds from whoever you might be interacting with, the same principle: be consistent, display the fruits of the Spirit, because your reaction could have messed up, relational capital in the church, could have thrown.
Could have messed 50 people up. Yeah.
Your reaction to your neighbor or something could set them on a path. And again, it's not up to you. You can't do it or lose it, but like you can set them, you could stack the deck against them for ever having a relationship with Jesus. And I will sit there in conversation and be like, Spirit, you better do something here.
That's real.
You better. I need you to tell me what I need to do. Tell me what I need to say. I need you to help me. Like I will consciously ask the Spirit.
Yeah.
Sarah's loving it.
That's great. Yeah.
But yes.
That's
but
really
it is. It's having that wherewithal. Like you think about Jesus as he was. I mean, the dude was arrested. He'd done
the criticism
nothing
he took.
wrong.
Whoa.
Spat on. You want to talk about personal insult?
Yeah, no kidding.
But as he hung on the cross, he looked at those people and said, "Father, forgive them," because what was more important was the will of the Father rather than the prerogative of the person.
Right.
And that's
I'm the
so
worst.
Mockery, he probably
I'm so horrible. Well, welcome to Exiles.
we are.
We're the worst.
Just start adopting dogs. You'll be fine. There you go.
It is true. It's like, how dare we even think that we should have to defend ourselves at all? Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But pride. So speaking of critics, and we don't have to say critics. I mean, what's another word? Anyway, let's talk about the being paralyzed by insecurity stuff. Mike, let's talk about that.
I made a grunt and then, yeah.
Just kidding.
So I said earlier, so often, like I will try to the best of my ability, try to see the insecurity from which somebody's throwing the criticism or the whatever word we want to throw on that. The ironic thing is, if their criticism comes out of a place of insecurity, when it hits me, it also tends to hit an area of my own insecurity, which is what caused. I have just enough emotional awareness to be able to like recognize the process, even though half the time I can't do anything about it. But to recognize the insecurity where it's hitting me, and so I that's the whole. It's a redirect. Okay, what is that insecurity? Is it my pride? Is it my ability to come through in this moment, or to have the answer, or whatever it might be? And then, I mean, I've learned this in counseling. Like when my mind starts going in those places, the lie is, I need to respond to this. I need to have an answer. I need to defend myself. The truth is, no, Jesus has already accomplished all of my worth and values wrapped up in what Jesus did for me on the cross. Now the Father now sees me, and no, I don't need to respond to this or whatever it might be. And so I just, there's insecurity coming at you, hitting my own insecurity, and I try to be aware of that in those conversations. Yeah.
And can I just, I just want to be clear about this in case someone hears it in a weird soundbite. We're not talking about like people who are leaders who are like turning a deaf ear and like abusing their power. Or like we're not talking about like, do you know what I'm saying? We're not talking about the things that are happening in, especially the American church right now, where like you see leaders kind of like falling because they're not opening themselves up to like people's quote unquote criticisms or whatever. We're talking about like Stephen saying, having all of us, not just leaders, having these trusted people that you listen to and not being swayed or paralyzed by insecurity because of what you're saying, Mike. So just in case someone hears that wrong, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, but having those people in your life, and hopefully they're honest enough with you, can help in that as well.
Yeah.
So when I left Wilson and I moved to Erie, it was right around the time that one of the large megachurch pastors fell. And I was heavily influenced. Call myself a fanboy, I know that. But I was heavily influenced by his leadership, his style. And then when it came out, there was an abuse of power, all those sorts of things. The first thing that I did was I emailed the couple of people at the church who are still at the church. And I said, guys, you know that I enjoyed this person. I was influenced by this person. Even a lot of the church governance was paralleled with how that church was set up too. Is there any way that I led that you can now see on the backside that may have actually been detrimental? Because I knew that they would be honest. And it took them about 10 days to respond. And he said, I actually asked a few people who had been here, and because I wanted, all the alarm bells ring in your head, like,
absolutely,
because sometimes you can do stuff with every good intention, but it's a blind spot in your life. And so you're responding in an unhealthy way, or you're actually acting in an unhealthy way and you have no idea. That's got nothing to do with, responding to criticism.
No, but
it's a good checks and balances when it comes to like just having those people in your life that you know that no matter what, you can go to them, but they're actually going to do the work to be honest with you. We have to obviously have a posture that's ready for, for what we might get back, but
that's, great.
It may not be fun.
Yeah, when I think about how much time I've probably wasted not doing something because something that someone said that like hit me sideways, it's a lot of wasted time, if I'm honest. Like a lot of second guessing, a lot of, that kind of thing. Like if I'm not in the right place, it's not good. Like my default is always self-deprecation. That's just my born default. And so I can I don't get like depressed over it or anything like that, but I definitely will like shift or completely freeze until I can like get myself out of it. It's so much wasted time.
Do you just think and think about it? Like you just can't
kind of
stop. Like
it depends what it is.
How do you? So you get hit with that criticism and whatever that that means. How do you get yourself out of it then? Like, what's your process? So
people are involved, like just in like, hey, this person said this, and when we did this, they wondered if I thought this about. It's usually like a decision, right? Like some decision got made, and we're constantly judging ourselves by our actions and not our hearts, right? So it's usually that, and then I'll ask a person, when I said this or did this, did it make you feel X? Like this, whatever this person said to me or whatever. Sometimes that's helpful, sometimes it's not. And then it is a lot of just me like thinking. And I would say I'm not necessarily, I used to probably spiral. And now it's more just like
like you're processing?
I'm processing it, but I'm I'm processing it with God as much as possible.
That's good.
If that makes sense.
That's really good.
And I don't mean that to be like an overly spiritual answer, but it's just having that be part of my conversation with God in that time. And sometimes it's like a day, and sometimes it's like a couple weeks or whatever it is. But
so is it that natural disposition that like, oh my gosh, they're right?
Yes, absolutely. I'll be like, oh yeah, yep, probably. Yeah. So I really have to fight against that. Yeah. If someone, I don't know. It's bad, but.
Has that been a trend through your life?
Oh, yeah.
Just, you've always sort of, that's been your natural disposition?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, here's a stupid example. I always go to this one. So I used to be like really good at like drama stuff, like singing, drama, whatever. But so was like a ton of other people in my class. And the narrative in our class was, this is the most talented class that's come through in like decades. And da-da-da-da-da. I was like, all these people were like really awesome. And I was like normal awesome. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So one time, like this director was like, hey, would you want to teach the choreography at the auditions? And then, we can audition you and whatever, blah, 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 blah. So instead of me being like, so today if someone said that to me, I'd be like, oh, wow, cool, leadership opportunity, yes. I will teach these people this choreography, and it'll be great, and it'll be fun, and then I'll audition, and I'll go up, and it'll be fine. But instead, I was like, yes, I will do that. And the whole time I was doing it, I was like, he's having me do this because he doesn't want me to audition.
Oh, wow.
So like so I used to be that bad. Or like if someone gave me a compliment, I would like cry in the bathroom afterwards. Like, it's bad. It was bad.
Because what was the lens that you were interpreting that through?
That can't be real.
Like, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
But even though it was a compliment?
I wouldn't.
But you don't believe that compliment.
Like it was backhanded.
That could be for me.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't deserve them to say that to me.
wow.
Like, guys, listen, it's a separate podcast. But I'm way better than I used to be. I used to be like.
I feel that, girl. That's real.
Anyway, I probably won't say that.
But that's super cool, though, because every single human being that walks this earth has deep places of insecurity. In whatever the flavor it is that you got it. And it's, there's an emotional intelligence and a self-awareness piece that can like recognize I've been hurt in these ways and these are the ways I react. Honestly, maybe a good first step for people is just to like be willing to look in,
yes,
and identify where your insecurities are. Just being able to call them out, with people, especially with community, with people who have the spirit who can do that gently. That alone will get you probably farther than most in being able to respond to criticism and dealing with it. Just look and be honest and call it out, and then take steps to address it.
Because you're not alone in that insecurity. More than likely, everyone has either experienced it or is going through it themselves in some way. It doesn't make you feel so alone.
Right.
With it.
And when we were talking about we were going through the future church process, when that insecurity stuff, we talked about how Erie is just an insecure kind of place. And that just like so resonated with me because I do think there is I don't want to say it's like maybe an oppressive spirit, but there's something about where we are that it's like so difficult to break through. And I think a lot of it has to do with people being willing to say to themselves, even if you don't want to say to another person, just like, I'm insecure about blah.
Yep.
And that's why I act this way.
Yep.
Or that's why I react this way. Like, you're right. That would be a huge step for any person.
Because you're getting it out there. You're not trying to hold it in anymore.
And you're calling it out. It's like you're calling it what it is. And then just praying for that like self-awareness is important too, I think. Okay, well.
We're covering a lot of ground. My goodness, we're going.
All right.
I like it.
Let's lighten it up. Jesus won't work where he's not wanted.
Yeah, make it easier.
Let's go easier now.
That really stuck with me too, when I listened. Yeah. Like when Derek said it, I think I like knew that, but you always think that, how do I want to put this? I guess I wonder how hard was it for Jesus to not disregard those people, but to know like
It's not for them.
It's not for them, and be able to just like keep on going. That has to be super difficult. It's super difficult for anyone.
Yeah.
But these are his people. Like the amount of love he had. Especially when he was back in his hometown and having to make that decision. Like I can't imagine what that was like for him. So
God gives us free will, and depending on your bend, there's people have different. But within we have volition, and He's given us that because that's actually more honoring to Him. Like if we were robots, if He's getting the praise of robots, okay, cool, good job. But like he's getting the praise and the honor and the glory from sentient beings who have volition and can make those choices. And so we have that for a reason. And again, and Derek, it's not a hard and fat black and white rule. Like God will still do whatever the heck he wants to do when he chooses to do it. But I think he is in his grace and mercy responsive to our decisions to an extent. And that is not only is that honoring and glorifying to him then when we choose to have faith in him, but it's also wild when you think about it. Like the God of the universe will let us actually make decisions and actually choose to have faith or not. And that's, I don't know, I've sat with that thought before and just been like, whoa.
Yeah, it's wild.
I don't know, that's way up high in the sky theologically, but.
No, it's good.
It does show the free will.
Moment of silence.
that one's challenging.
It
to
is.
Me.
It is me too.
My pause is because I think it is. So where my brain goes immediately is to the savvy follower, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's dangerous as far as, and this was not Derek's heart, I don't believe, to say God will and God won't.
Correct.
Or God can and God doesn't. Because to your point, God does whatever he wants. But I think what it points back to, and I think this is where Derek was pointing as well, is that there is a will of the Father.
Yes.
And the point is that we stay in line with the will of the Father. And that's how Jesus operated in his savviness in each and every situation. And so he could discern, like we don't have this ability, but through the Spirit, I think we can have insight. He was able to discern the hearts of those people. And he responded according to the will of the Father in that situation, what was the best. And I feel like that's, we can theological.
I wouldn't be able to help you with that one either.
Theologize?
I get it.
Theologize? Yeah, I think that's it. Theologize. We can theologize. If not, it is right now.
Please let
we
us
can
know
theologize any situation. And I think there's a danger to that.
Yeah, of course.
I think obviously theology is good. It's important. It's the study of God. We want to study God because we need to know who he is. But I think there's that equation that I think regardless of where we want to land still stands true. Like Jesus' ability to discern the will of the Father and to respond accordingly. And again, obviously he had the ability to discern those people's hearts as well, allowed him to make the decisions that he did in those moments. Because you do see situations where people had no faith and God showed up and he responded. I think about the guy at the pool of Bethesda. He didn't really have faith that Jesus could do anything. He didn't believe that anybody could do anything, could be lying there for years and years and years and years and years. And Jesus was like, pick up your mat and walk. And, so there's these realities where humans' faith does interplay. And then sometimes God just does what he wants. Yeah. So I think it's so fascinating. But again, there's this reality. He knew the will of the Father, and that's where he hung out.
Yeah.
So I think it's our job to discern that. As much and as best as we can.
Correct. It's not a way of bending God to our will. Right. I'm going to manufacture some faith so he does. But our job is clearly to align ourselves with the Father's will and to apprentice after Jesus, and then God will act in the way that he chooses to act. We should think about it, but we shouldn't be obsessed with it, and we should just do what we're being asked to do.
Yeah, Jesus, do the next right thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's great. Thanks for bringing it back.
Making it next right thing.
Words.
No worries. Shit. Oh gosh. Wow. Okay. I think we're out of time, huh?
Oh wow. How did that happen?
No idea.
That went quick.
It's fun.
Oh, tell us if this was a bad episode, guys. That went really fast.
We love to hear the feedback.
We'll take your constructive criticism. It's fine.
It won't hurt our feelings.
Oh my gosh.
If we need to re-record, just
let us know. We'll do a bonus episode. We're always forever promising bonus episodes. We'll do a bonus episode.
We just ran for like 45 minutes?
I don't know.
Did we cover anything?
We were babbling at the beginning for a little while, and then you're like, you're recording.
I blacked out.
Well, okay. So, discipleship question. As you think, yes, the discipleship failure theme came up. So the question, the way Derek put it, is as you think about facing disparaging critics in your life, or opposition from people in your life? What is holding me back from looking more like Jesus? So that's something to think about. And also just the idea of, I think for those of you listening, are there some things that kind of keep you pinned down with insecurity? And are there just things where you just need to do the next right thing without, like Mike and Stephen were saying, obsessing over what God is doing, not doing, like what's in front of you, what do you need to do, what's the next right step you need to take. I think that's it for today. Hopefully it was good.
We could have gone on for like a whole another hour.
I don't know. I was struggling.
I mean, probably.
Thank you guys, and we see you again. One more?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yep.
No, this is the 10th.
This is 4.
Oh, yes, one more.
Isn't this 4?
I think I said last time it was one
March
more,
has
but
5
this
Sundays.
time it's
We
one
clearly
more.
have no idea what we're doing.
Clearly not.
We're swinging it.
Yeah. At least you know we're real. Thank you. See ya.
Bye.